Belcastro, who has created a unique profiling system called the Belcastro Life Profile Technique. Now, one fascinating thing you do with your profiles is you actually use the name of a person to reveal their current cycles and influences. Tell me about that.
Well, this is an area of experience that's taken from the letters in the name, where the birth date gives us the 4 main cycles of experience and challenges. The name experience gives us the experiences that are more up close and personal. It gets in and tells you exactly what's going on. Each letter of the name has a life cycle of so many years. For example, the A, J and S have a 1-year span, and the I and the R have a 9-year span. And so when those letters are active, they are active for that length of time. And we continue with each name. And then we add the letters that correspond, and that gives us a total. But I just love it because it tells me so much, and it's so accurate.
Great, so we've covered our personal mandate, but I believe you also discovered ways that you can find the mandate for whole communities.
Yes, I call them world cycles or universal time cycles, because that gives a picture of the world and how it was meant to proceed from the very beginning.
So what are those different cycles?
In the background we have the millennium time cycle, and we have recently gone from the number 1 of the past millennium to the number 2. And so that's in the background, and that's like a stage. That's your stage for the next 1,000 years. The mandate for the number 2 is peace. Really, that is one of the mandates, and it's a big one, and it is peace. And so how that peace eventuates is up to us. Will it be voluntarily? Will it be through violence, aggression, annihilation? We have the opportunity to choose. And so now that we're in a big global space all together, it's even more important that we get on with each other. And then we have the century time cycle. We are in the 21st century, so we have the number 3. And now, the number 3 is the number of vision. It's the number that says look ahead to the possibilities. The megacycle is the 81-year cycle. Every 81 years the world gets an opportunity to start afresh. Now, we had the beginning of one in 1945. Now, 1945 is when, the war ended, and so humanity had the opportunity to start afresh. Had the leaders of the time known about this opportunity, perhaps we would be living in a different environment today. The major cycle is a 9-year cycle that sits within that 81 megacycle, within that 81-year megacycle. The world is currently in a 224 major cycle, directed by the number 8. That's where we are right now.
And so how did you calculate the major cycle?
You divide the year by 9. So we are in the 5th year of a 224 major cycle, directed by the number 8. So within that, the 224, there's a master number there, the 22-4. And so we're at a stage in life where we have the opportunity to do something that most think is impossible. And there is that power of the 8. Now that powerful 8 is, the 8 is it takes care of everybody, so if it's used in the positive rather than for individual power and authority, we can have wonderful things happening.
Okay, a lot of cycles then that we're under the influence of, but which is the most important for us? They overlap. It's a little bit like your clothing. Your undergarments can be. You can look at that as your millennium cycle, or a painting. That's your background, and then you build on that, and it comprises everything. So they are all active. Okay, Anna, but our calendar has only been around for about 1,500 years. What happened before that, and what happens to the cultures who aren't actually following the Gregorian calendar?
Well, they worked for their own different regions, and
during those times, if we go back enough, a lot of those countries or groups of countries were entities within themselves. They didn't have to work together. It was more a grouping of nations or one nation, and they worked within their own cycle. So their mandate, that they could do that, it was enough, but not anymore, because now we're in the world.
So it's not a coincidence then that the Gregorian calendar has been adopted by most cultures over the last 100 years?
No, it's not a coincidence. The last century was the last 100 years of that number one, because we have that 2 in the background, which runs for 1,000 years. And so in the past 100 years, we can see the differences and how we've started, to come together.
That raises a really interesting question, because currently in the Middle East we have 3 active calendars: the Gregorian calendar, but then there's also the Jewish calendar and the Islamic calendar that are adopted by the cultures in that area. How is that playing out?
The Islamic calendar is going through a period of wisdom, because the 7 is the number of wisdom. There's the religious aspect, but it's more a spiritual aspect. It's about growing in that perspective, which will in turn empower them for more later on. So then we have the Jewish calendar, which is in a 642 major cycle, directed by the number 3. Now that's the directive number. So it is saying to the Jewish people, look beyond what's in front of you. Don't focus on the difficulties. Focus on, look beyond what you can achieve. The 2 loops of the 8 tells us that we require a balance for the full power and the intentions of the 8 to come about. And so we need to incorporate the spiritual into the material. We can no longer avoid that. And so that also connects with the Islamic calendar of the 7 of wisdom. And then we have the 3 of the Jewish calendar. And again, look at what you can do, look at what you can achieve within that power and authority and ambition with what you have. But it's we have to work together, as the number 2 tells us.
Well, that's all we have time for here today on The Centre. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you back next time. I'm Kim Forrester. Until then, take good care. Bye-bye.
For more information on life profiling and numerological mandates, visit annabelcastro.com.